The glittering, golden light from the Art Deco chandeliers cast a rich glow across the Grand Trianon ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, where the city's elite gathered in their finest attire. Elara Vance, 27, a PhD candidate in art history specializing in lost artifacts, adjusted her classic navy sheath dress, the most formal outfit she could borrow, and fought down her anxiety. As a sign language interpreter for the Metropolitan Art Restoration Fund Gala, she didn't belong among these powerful patrons, but she desperately needed the freelance interpreting job to cover her tuition and research costs. Just blend in and be available if needed, her agency coordinator had instructed. So far, no one had required her services, making Elara feel increasingly invisible as she circulated through the crowd. That's when she spotted him. In the corner of the Roman sculpture exhibit, partially hidden behind a marble pedestal, stood a young man in a finely tailored black suit. While everyone around him laughed and raised their glasses, he remained silent, his eyes deep and watchful focused on the space. Despite the Jaeger-LeCoultre watch and the impeccable grooming, something in his posture, the unusual stillness, the way he carefully observed the eye contact and gestures of others was immediately recognizable to Elara. The young man was deaf and no one was talking to him. Elara's attention shifted as a ripple of excited noise spread through the room. Fintech mogul Marcus Thorne, the evening's honored guest and a renowned art collector, had arrived. His company, Thorne Global, had pledged tens of millions to restore ancient frescoes for the museum. Cameras flashed as he entered, a middle-aged man with slick-back graying hair and a commanding, powerful presence. People gravitated toward him like metal to a magnet, eager to share a piece of his spotlight. "Mr. Thorne, just a quick question." Reporters and art experts called, while wealthy benefactors attempted to hand him business cards. Elara glanced back at the deaf young man, noticing how he watched the older man, his father, no doubt. It was a mix of caution and weariness. Not once did Marcus Thorne turn to look at his son, and not once did anyone stop to engage him. Taking a determined breath, Elara crossed the room. As she neared, his eyes widened slightly in surprise at being directly approached. "Good evening," Elara signed, her hands forming the greeting in American Sign Language, ASL. With fluid ease. "I'm Elara. I'm the interpreter for the event." The young man's face transformed. The mask of cold detachment dissolved, replaced by a look of genuine relief that made Elara feel justified. How long had it been since he had a real conversation? "I'm Julian," he signed back, his movements deliberate. "You know ASL?" "Yes. I'm working tonight. It's bizarre to see an interpreter who isn't glued to my father's side." Julian offered a wry smile, though his eyes were sad. "My father always has a decoder nearby." "You don't need a decoder right now," Elara signed. "If you'd like company." "God, yes." Julian signed. "I've been trying to guess meaning from facial expressions all night. My head aches. Everyone here talks about Monet as much as they talk about IPOs. You know that?" "I do," Elara chuckled. "And I bet they talk too loud, as if that helps you understand." "Exactly." Julian signed, his movements becoming animated. "Or they ask if I can read their lips. And when I say yes, they immediately start using complex sentences and industry jargon at top speed that they wouldn't use with anyone else." As they conversed, Elara noticed the intensity of Julian's gaze soften, his wit and intelligence emerging. "I'm a second-year graduate student at MIT," Julian explained when Elara asked about his work. "Majoring in neural engineering. I'm researching brain-machine interfaces for assistive devices." "A tech scientist," Elara said. "A contrast to the art your father is supporting." "Yes, art isn't science," Julian signed with a mocking tone, "though I have a secret passion for ancient ceramics restoration." I spend my free time 3D printing recreations of fragmented pieces. That sounds fascinating, Elora said honestly. Do you have many friends at MIT? Julian's hands hesitated. Not really. The engineers think I'm the weird rich kid because of the ceramics, and the art crowd thinks I'm the stuck-up tech baron's son who doesn't understand the craft. I'm an island. That sounds lonely, Elora replied. It is what it is. Julian shrugged. At least I have my research. It's tangible. It has a clear objective. Elora watched Marcus Thorne across the room, busy with a group of investors. She couldn't help but notice how Julian's eyes occasionally drifted toward his father, a mix of longing and distance. Your father seems very busy, Elora commented carefully. Julian's smile was bitter. He's always busy. Thorne Global doesn't run itself, you know. He's built an empire since my mother died. I admire him greatly. The rehearsed nature of the statement was heartbreaking. When did your mother pass away? Elora asked gently. When I was 8. That's when everything changed. Julian's hands slowed. Before that, our house was full of Baroque music, which is ironic, I know. My mother was a composer. She made sure I experienced music my own way, through the vibrations of the cello body, through the way she wrote scores. After she died, the music stopped. Dad buried himself in work, and I became a project to manage. The project? The deaf son. Cochlear implants, therapists. He wanted to rewire me. Julian's signing became sharp. He never learned to sign. Not a single word. He pays others to do it. We have rotating interpreters at home. He talks to them, not me. He discusses my condition with a stranger while I'm sitting right there. Elora felt a wave of sympathy for Julian and frustration toward Marcus Thorne. How could a man who solved complex global problems fail so fundamentally to listen to his own son? I'm sorry, Elora signed simply. Julian shrugged. It is what it is. He glanced over Elora's shoulder, and his expression changed. The boss is coming. Marcus Thorne approached, accompanied by an art collector. Julian, Mr. Thorne said, his lips easy to read as he spoke loudly and deliberately. You should come here. Mr. Carmichael wants to talk to you about medical device investments. He didn't look at Elora, didn't acknowledge her. Julian turned to Elora and quickly signed. He doesn't care who you are. I'm just another exhibit. Julian walked away to join his father. Elora stood her ground. She saw the loneliness, a loneliness wrapped in wealth. The evening wound down. Elora saw Julian slip away from the crowd, heading toward large glass doors that led to a tranquil Japanese garden. Making a split-second decision, Elora followed. Outside, the New York air was cold, the garden lit by paper lanterns. Julian was standing by an ancient bonsai tree, staring into the dark. Successful escape, Elora signed as she approached. Julian turned, the weariness on his face palpable. Just need some visual space. Everyone talks too much. Before Elora could respond, the glass doors opened. Marcus Thorne stepped out, his expression shifting from annoyance to displeasure when he saw his son was not alone. Julian, it's time to go, he said, looking directly at his son, but making no effort to sign. Elora saw Julian recoil, the wall between father and son instantly rebuilding. And in that moment, she acted. Mr. Thorne, she said aloud, simultaneously signing for Julian's benefit. My name is Elora Vance. I'm an interpreter, and I've been speaking with your son. Julian is brilliant. Mr. Thorne blinked, clearly taken aback by this bold approach. I thank you. Do you work for the venue? Yes. Elora replied, still signing her words. But right now, I'm just someone who thinks you should know what you're missing by not being able to communicate directly with Julian. He's an outstanding neural engineering researcher and has a passion for ceramics restoration. The mogul's expression hardened. But Ilara also saw a flicker of pain quickly masked. Julian stared, his hands frozen midair. Marcus Thorne's jaw tightened. "Miss Vance," he repeated, after she supplied her name. "I appreciate your unprofessional concern, but my family relationship is a private matter." Ilara felt her professional restraint snap. "With all due respect, Mr. Thorne, you're funding the restoration of ancient frescoes, but you're unwilling to restore the relationship with your own son. Julian stood alone all evening, right in the middle of your generosity." A flash of genuine hurt crossed Mr. Thorne's face before his business mask returned. "You've overstepped, Miss Vance." "Julian, we're leaving." He turned and walked back toward the ballroom, expecting Julian to follow. Julian hesitated, his eyes locked with Ilara's. "You got me in trouble," he signed quickly. "He's always like this. Since the accident. I can't be fixed." "What accident?" Ilara asked, but Julian was already moving away. "Find me at MIT," Julian signed before disappearing through the door. The next morning, Ilara woke to a voicemail. "Ilara, call me back immediately. There's been a complaint about your conduct at the Waldorf last night." Her stomach dropped. This was it. "I can explain," Ilara began when her coordinator answered. "You certainly will explain," came the sharp reply, followed by a strange lift in tone. "Marcus Thorne's office called this morning. They've specifically requested you for a private appointment at his estate this afternoon." Ilara nearly dropped her phone. They what?" "I don't know what you did, but you've caught the attention of one of New York's most influential men. This could be massive. Ilara. Don't mess it up." 3 hours later, Ilara found herself driving through the imposing gates of the Thorne estate in Connecticut. A stunning modern glass and steel structure. The housekeeper met her. "Mr. Thorne is waiting in his study." "This way, please." Ilara followed. She noticed a large abstract painting on the wall. Featuring precise geometry and blurred lines, it seemed to depict a complex chemical reaction. Julian's work, she thought. "Miss Vance, thank you for coming," Marcus Thorne said, rising. "Please sit." His tone was professional. "I owe you an apology," he said instead of a reprimand, surprising her completely. "Your words last night. They were inappropriate, but not inaccurate." Julian was accepted into the PhD program at MIT, but he hasn't truly spoken to me about his life in years. "Sir, I apologize for speaking so bluntly. It was not my place." "Perhaps it was exactly your place," Mr. Thorne replied, sitting down. "That's why I invited you here." He placed his hands on the desk. Julian lost his hearing after a high fever at age 8. The doctors said it was permanent, irreversible. "I spent the first years chasing cochlear implant specialists," Ilara said softly, recalling Julian's words. "Yes. I couldn't accept that my son would never hear music again. My wife Diana was a composer. She taught Julian to read music scores through vibration from a young age. After she died, I tried to erase the music from the house." Julian mentioned his mother, Ilara said. "He said the house was once full of music." "It was." "Mr." Thorne looked at the framed photo of a vibrant woman embracing a beaming young boy. "Diana always said science and art are two sides of the same coin. She wanted Julian to learn how to connect them. Afterward, I only saw his deafness as a technological problem to solve. I failed to make the emotional connection. Mr. Thorne, why am I here? I want to hire you, Miss Vance. Directly. Not to interpret. To teach me to sign. I want to communicate with my son directly, without intermediaries. I should have learned years ago." Elara was stunned. Mr. Thorne, learning ASL requires serious time and commitment. I know. I'm prepared to commit to 3 lessons a week for the next year. He named a figure for compensation that made Elara's eyes widen. Would that arrangement interest you? Before I answer, why now? What changed? Mr. Thorne looked down at a folded piece of paper. This morning, Julian left this. He just submitted his PhD thesis. He handed Elara a handwritten note. Dad, I know you're angry about the interpreter last night. But she was the first person who saw me as Julian, not the deaf Thorne's son. I submitted my thesis. The title is Fragment Restoration. Neural Connection via Ceramic Interfaces. You taught me science. Mom taught me beauty. I connected them. Try to connect with me, Julian. Elara carefully refolded the note, her throat tight with emotion. I've spent years throwing money at technological solutions, Mr. Thorne said quietly. But I failed to make the one investment that truly mattered. Time and language. It's not too late, Elara said. I have one last chance to fix this. He stood up. Now, there's someone else who would like to speak with you. The door opened. Julian entered. You came, he signed with a broad smile. Your father invited me, Elara signed back. Julian's eyes darted between Elara and his father. Why? Mr. Thorne cleared his throat awkwardly. I'll let Miss Vance explain. I have a video call. He paused. Julian, son. We'll talk later. After he left, Julian signed quickly. What's happening? Am I in trouble because of you? No, Elara assured him. Your father has hired me to teach him ASL. Julian froze. My father learning to sign? You're joking. I'm not. He seems very determined. Julian sank into a chair. Skepticism hid a thin thread of hope. He won't stick with it. He always gives up when things get hard. Maybe this time will be different, Elara suggested gently. Asterisk. Because this time, he's not trying to rewire you. He's trying to rewire their relationship. 3 months later, Elara sat across from Marcus Thorne in his study, watching him struggle through fingerspelling. I-N-T-E-G-R-A-T-I-O-N. His fingers formed the letters laboriously. Good, Elara signed and spoke simultaneously. But remember, the sign for integrate is faster than spelling it out. Mr. Thorne frowned in concentration as he attempted the sign. Frustration evident when his fingers wouldn't cooperate. This is impossible, he muttered, dropping his hands. I'm too old for a new language. You learned Mandarin for business deals, Elara reminded him. That was different. That was. He trailed off. More important, Elara supplied, keeping her tone neutral. Mr. Thorne had the grace to look ashamed. I was going to say easier, but you're right to call me out. Let's try something different, Elara suggested. Instead of technical vocabulary, let's practice something you might want to say to Julian. Mr. Thorne looked uneasy. Such as? How about, I understand the beauty of your work. That's something every artist needs to hear. A flicker crossed his face. Does he think I don't see the beauty? Elara chose her words carefully. Mr. Thorne, when was the last time you told him so directly? In his language. Let me show you, she said, demonstrating the sign for beauty and understand. Mr. Thorne watched intently, then mimicked her movements with surprising focus. Perfect, Elara encouraged. Now try. I'm sorry, son. The simple sign for sorry, a fist circling over the heart, seemed to overwhelm him. After attempting it, he abruptly stood and walked to the window. I haven't told Julian I'm sorry since the day his mother died, he admitted, his back to Alara. Not for his deafness, but for my abandonment. For taking the music out of his life, because I couldn't bear the silence that followed Diana's loss. The silence was your pain, not his fault, Alara said gently. It felt like the same thing. He turned, his composure slipping. I wanted to fix him because I couldn't fix the silence in my own life. I thought if I could get his hearing back, the music would return. But Julian found his own music in the vibrations of his 3D printer and the geometry of his code. He's been waiting for you to see that, Alara observed. That afternoon, Alara met Julian at a ceramic workshop he frequented near the university. So, Julian signed. How's my father doing? Still treating it like a hostile takeover? He's dedicated, Alara replied. He's struggling with the emotional signs, but he's progressing. Progress is just another metric for him. Julian signed, but Alara noticed the tightness in his shoulders was less severe. He told me about his wife, your mother, today, Alara revealed carefully. Julian's hands stilled. He never talks about her loss, only about my condition. I think he carries a lot of guilt over the accident. He sees your deafness as a consequence of his failure to protect your mother. He should feel guilty, Julian signed sharply. Not for the accident, but for leaving me alone with my grief, for replacing communication with technology. You never told me why you left your school job, Julian signed, wanting to change the subject. Budget cuts were the official reason, but the truth is, I was becoming too personally involved. My supervisor said I needed better professional boundaries. What does that mean? It means I did things like advocating too aggressively for resources, or refusing to simply be a neutral interpreter when I saw a clear injustice. Alara shrugged. Maybe they were right. I've never been good at emotional distance. Is that why you confronted my father at the gala? Probably, Alara admitted. It wasn't professional. It was exactly what I needed, Julian countered. Even if nothing changes with him, you saw me. That matters. 2 weeks later, Julian's mid-program research showcase was held at the MIT Media Lab. The room buzzed with investors, professors, and art curators. Julian's centerpiece was a large, striking installation, a shattered Greek amphora that he had meticulously 3D printed the missing pieces for. The pieces were printed in different materials, some translucent plastic, some solid metal, and when pieced together, they revealed the original form, but with the new, visible scars of technology. The title card read, "The Restored Scar, Integrating Loss and Innovation." Alara arrived early. Julian, this is incredible, she signed. The fractures are the most powerful part. They are the truth, Julian signed. They are the trauma and the solution, visible at the same time. A murmur went through the room. Marcus Thorne had arrived. Impeccably dressed, his presence was commanding. The head of the media lab hurried to greet him. Alara saw Julian's face fall slightly. The benefactor arrives. Always the checkbook, never the father. But as the head of the lab attempted to guide Mr. Thorne toward the display of an AI-driven robot, something unexpected happened. Mr. Thorne stopped, said something that surprised the professor, and then walked directly toward Julian's installation. Alara quickly signed, "Your father is coming this way." Julian stiffened as Marcus Thorne approached. Julian didn't see what Alara did. The way Mr. Thorne's eyes widened as he truly looked at the exhibit, the flash of recognition when he read the title. What happened next stunned them both. In full view of the gathering crowd, Marcus Thorne slowly, deliberately, raised his hands and signed. "This is beautiful. I understand the geometry. I am sorry, son." Julian's shock was visible, his hands frozen at his sides. For a moment, Alara feared he wouldn't respond. Then, with trembling fingers, Julian signed back. "Thank you. That is enough." It was a small exchange, painfully basic, compared to the complex thoughts both clearly wanted to express. But in that moment, as father and son looked at each other with unguarded emotion for the first time in a decade, Ilara understood that the great restoration had begun. Ilara stood back, her heart full. She realized her time as an interpreter and a tutor was coming to an end. But her role in this restoration of human connection was the greatest achievement of her career. The fractures were finally visible, and the process of integration was underway.